Do you ever feel like you're wearing a mask, hiding the real you from the world? Imagine the freedom and power that comes from finally taking it off. This story isn't about being loud. It's about the quiet, profound strength found in simply being yourself, and how that can transform your life and relationships. It started with a smile, one of those practiced, picture-perfect ones that didn't quite reach the eyes. Every morning I'd look in the mirror before work, adjusting my clothes, my posture, my expression. I knew what was expected of me. Cheerful, confident, capable. The best version of myself, or rather, the version I thought people wanted to see. What no one knew was how exhausting it was to keep that version alive. Pretending became second nature. In meetings, I'd nod along with ideas I disagreed with. At parties, I'd laugh at jokes that didn't amuse me. Even on social media, my posts were carefully crafted, filtered sunsets, witty captions, humble brags that masked quiet loneliness. Inside, though, I felt like I was slowly fading. Each time I hid a part of myself, it was like erasing a small piece of my own reflection. It wasn't that I didn't know who I was. Deep down, I did. I loved art, solitude, meaningful conversations, and rainy afternoons. But the world around me seemed to reward performance, not authenticity. So I performed. I became who I thought others wanted me to be, because being my real self felt too risky, too vulnerable. The truth was, pretending drained me. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was emotional erosion. There's a quiet kind of fatigue that comes from constantly editing yourself, choosing your words, your tone, even your emotions to fit in. By the end of each day, I'd feel hollow, as if I'd spent all my energy maintaining an illusion. I told myself it was normal. Everyone wears a mask, right? But deep down, I knew that if I kept hiding, I'd eventually lose sight of who I really was. Social media didn't make it easier, it made it worse. Scrolling through my feeds was like flipping through a magazine of everyone else's perfect lives. Friends smiling on vacations, influencers with flawless skin and success stories, strangers with morning routines that looked like movie montages. Every image whispered the same message: you're not enough. So I curated my own highlight reel to keep up. Carefully angled photos, thoughtfully written posts, always positive, never too real. Each felt like validation, a tiny hit of approval that kept me coming back for more. But it was temporary. Behind the screen, I felt smaller. My real self, the unfiltered, uncertain, imperfect version, felt like someone who didn't belong in that glossy world. The more I tried to match the illusion, the more disconnected I became from the truth of who I was. The worst part wasn't the comparison, it was the silence. Because no one talks about how lonely it feels to constantly perform happiness. You can be surrounded by people, admired even, and still feel completely unseen. It took years before I recognized the toll it was taking on me. The signs were subtle at first: tightness in my chest, sleepless nights, a constant low hum of anxiety. I told myself it was just stress, but deep down, I knew it was something else, the pain of not living honestly. Suppressing my true self had become a habit. If I felt sadness, I pushed it down. If I wanted to say something unpopular, I swallowed it. If I longed to express creativity, I told myself there wasn't time. Each suppression was small, but together they built a cage, an invisible one that I carried everywhere. Then one evening, something inside me cracked. I was having dinner with a friend, and she said, "You always seem so put together. I wish I had it figured out like you." Her words stung, not because they were unkind, but because they were untrue. I wanted to tell her I didn't have it figured out, that I was tired, scared, and sometimes felt like I was pretending to live my own life. But the words stuck in my throat. I just smiled and said, "Thanks." That night I went home and cried. Not because anything terrible had happened, but because I finally admitted the truth. I was done pretending. The change didn't happen overnight. Authenticity isn't something you declare once. It's something you practice moment by moment. I started small. I stopped posting for validation. I began journaling honestly, without worrying how my thoughts sounded. When friends asked how I was doing, I told the truth even when it wasn't pretty. The first few times felt terrifying. Vulnerability always does. But with each honest word, each unfiltered expression, something powerful began to grow inside me. Peace. I realized that being authentic doesn't mean being loud or dramatic. It means being real. It means showing up as yourself even when it's uncomfortable. There is a silent strength in that, a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need approval to exist. Over time, people around me began to respond differently. The relationships that were built on surface-level small talk faded, but the ones that mattered deepened. I found myself connecting with people who valued honesty over perfection, presence over performance. And the energy I used to waste on pretending, I got it back. Suddenly, life felt lighter, simpler, more meaningful. I won't pretend it's always easy. There are still moments when I feel the pull to wear the mask again, to fit in, to impress, to hide my flaws. But now I know that true strength doesn't come from the act of fitting in. It comes from the courage to stand out as yourself. When I look back now, I realize that authenticity isn't just about self-expression. It's about self-respect. It's choosing to honor your truth even when it's inconvenient, even when it doesn't fit the mold. The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people who are real, people who are willing to say, "This is me," without the filters, without the performance. Because when you finally take off the mask, you don't lose anything real. You only lose the weight of pretending. And what's left is something unshakable. The silent, unpretentious strength of being exactly who you are.